Hey everyone, Varric here. So today's video is going to be on the Twin Consorts fight, the 11th boss in the Throne of Thunder. Now this is a 4-phase fight, with the first 2 phases lasting exactly 3 minutes each. Now the first phase, or the Darkness phase, you will be dealing with Looolin, or the consort on the right as you enter. Overall this phase is actually pretty simple, but we need to go over a few abilities. The first ability that she does is called Moon Lotus, where she will spawn lotuses around the outer edge of the room. These lotuses will spit out this green looking smoke. If you come into contact with this green smoke, it will put you to sleep for 5 seconds. It's not really any damaging ability, it's more of just an annoyance. Just kind of watch out for it. The second ability is called Cosmic Barrage. She will basically channel this spell for a few seconds and spawn little stars on the floor. After a couple of seconds, these stars will just randomly attack a raid member and deal damage to that raid member and anybody within 8 yards, so it's important to stay spread out. Also, it will knock you back. Again, this can be kind of annoying because it can knock you back into the green smoke if you're not paying attention, so just try to watch out on your positioning. Now, during this phase, Suin, or the other consort, will randomly pop in from time to time. When she appears, she will do 2 different abilities. The first one, called Tears of the Sun, is just raid-wide fire damage. There's nothing you can do to avoid it. The second one, which is Light of Day, she will just cast on a random raid member, and it'll deal damage to you and anybody within 8 yards of you. So again, it's important to stay spread out. Keep in mind, though, that you can actually attack Suin when she appears, and I definitely recommend at least throwing a dot or 2 on her as she pops in and out. The damage will carry over into the next phase. Now, as I said earlier, each of the first 2 phases will last exactly 3 minutes. So once the 3 minutes are up, you will enter phase 2, or the Daylight phase, in which case Looolin will disappear and Suin will appear. Now, Suin does have a couple of abilities that we need to kind of be very aware of. The first one being Flames of Passion, where she will just randomly charge a raid member and she will knock them back quite a distance. So just be aware that you don't want to be too far on the outer fringe. You don't want to get knocked out of range of your healers. Also, as she's running back towards the tank, she will leave a flame path on the ground, so just try to watch out for that. The main ability that she does is a stacking self buff called Blazing Radiance that will increase the fire damage that she does. The way to combat this is, just like in phase 1, Looolin will make an appearance about every 20 seconds or so and cast an ability called Ice Comet, which will target a random raid member and deposit these little ice crystals on the ground. When this appears, your tank needs to drag Suin over to these Ice Comet, which in turn will reduce the stacks of Blazing Radiance that she has. The closer she does stand to the Ice Comets, the faster it will melt. However, it's very important that your tank does drag her over there to him to remove the stacks. Also keep in mind that if you're standing too close to the Ice Comet, it will reduce your attack speed. However, it will reduce the amount of damage you're taking, but I don't recommend standing next to it. It's not worth the reduced attack speed. Now, just as with phase 1, phase 2 will last 3 minutes. Once 3 minutes are up, you will enter the third phase, or the Break of Dusk phase. And this is where things get a little interesting, because now you're dealing with both of the consorts at the same time. However, each of the consorts loses a couple of their abilities. In Loolin's case, she will no longer be using Moon Lotus or Cosmic Barrage. But she will still be casting Ice Comet, so it's still important for whoever's tanking the Suin to make sure they're dragging her over there to keep her Blazing Radiance stacked within reason. She does gain a new ability called Tidal Force. When Looolin starts casting this, it's a channeled spell, and she will basically be pushing these water waves out from her. They are kind of quick, and they do a decent amount of damage, so it's important to try to dodge it if you can. Also keep in mind that as she's channeling this spell, she cannot be damaged. She's immune to damage. Conversely, Suin will no longer be using Flames of Passion or Tears of the Sun. However, she still will be stacking the Blazing Radiance, and she still will be casting Light of Day. So again, it's still important to stay spread out. Now, phase 4 will depend on which of the consorts you decide to kill first. For this video, and probably for your first few kills, I highly recommend killing Suin first. The reason being is that when you kill Suin, and Loolin's the last one left, phase 4 will basically just turn into a phase 1 all over again, or a darkness phase. So all you really have to deal with is Moon Lotus and Cosmic Barrage, which is very easy to deal with. Conversely, if you kill Looilin first, and Suin's the last one left alive, the last phase will turn into another daylight phase. Now the reason this is more dangerous is because Looilin is no longer alive to cast Ice Comet, so you can no longer remove these stacks of Blazing Radiance that Suin is stacking, which means the damage over the course of the rest of the fight is going to start to stack up quite high. You're probably not going to have the gear for it the first few times that you do it, so again, I just recommend killing Suin first. Also recommend saving your Bloodlust and Heroism for this particular phase, as you want Suin to die as quickly as possible. But that's really pretty much it as far as the consorts go. Now there is one more mechanic that I should mention, and it can play a large role in the fight, especially your first few kills, and that's called the Celestial Buffs. If you look around the outer edges of the room, you'll notice there's these different pillars, with the different Pandarian Celestials on top of each of the pillars. When you enter one of these pillars, you'll be transported to another dimension, in which case you'll be charged to have to draw a certain symbol for each of the Celestials. If you draw the symbol correctly on the ground, it will summon that Celestial to the fight. I'll go over each of these Celestials' abilities. The Ox will cast an ability called Fortitude of the Ox, which will increase the maximum health of the raid for 15 seconds. The Crane will cast a Rush of Cranes, which will just summon a stampede of cranes that will do damage to the bosses. The Dragon will use Serpent's Vitality, which will restore all your raid's health, HP, and mana. And the Tiger will cast the Tiger's Celerity, which will cause all the boss's abilities to be slowed down. The key to using these is the timing during the fight. There's a certain times during the fight you really want to use certain one of these Celestials. And I'll go over a couple of the ones that are really important. Probably the first time that you really want to start using these is right towards the end of phase 2. I would recommend probably using Rush of Cranes probably within 30 to 45 seconds right before phase 2 ends, before you enter phase 3, as this will put a decent amount of damage on Suin. Again, like I said, once phase 3 starts, you want her to die as quickly as possible, as Loolin's by far the least of the dangerous out of the two. I also recommend casting Serpent's Vitality right before phase 3 starts. This will top off all the raid members' HP and mana, which will become very important. And during phase 3, obviously there will be a lot of outgoing damage. Now, once phase 3 starts, or during the Break of Dusk phase, as Loolin's casting Tidal Force, it's probably not a good idea to really use anything maybe other than Rush of Cranes. Once she does the second Tidal Force, I would probably use the Ox, just to make sure that everybody will survive due to the damage that these waves will do. At this point, again, your mana is probably going to be an issue in HP, so again, go ahead and feel comfortable to use Serpent's Vitality to get everybody's HP and MP top back up. Using the Tiger one, again, is just going to come down to probably the third or so Tidal Force, in which case it will slow all her abilities down, making things a little easier to dodge. But again, it's going to come up depending on which of your raid strat that you use. It's going to differ from raid to raid. That's just my recommendation for it. I've never actually done the actual drawing, so I can't really comment on how to do it. There are definitely videos out there that show you how to draw each of the celestial symbols correctly. But again, it's just something I wanted to mention, as it does become kind of important, especially if your raid's first couple of attempts on this fight. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, give it a like and subscribe, as it helps me out. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you later.